Live from San Diego, California, this is the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans, by the fans. With Josh Taylor, Justin Smead, Jason Eidsmo, and Mike Maciejewski, we're talking Chargers, Padres, and Aztec sports. It's time to let your voice be heard. What's up there, Bolt fans? This is the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans,
by the fans.
And we are back at it once again after a great evening at Cali Comfort. We had a huge turnout. I think the raffle went really well, raffling off that Donald Butler football.
Yes.
Just overall great experience. If you guys were a part of it, thank you for coming down. Thank you for putting a headset on and talking to us. Big Brian, of course, Matt. I think Jay was another one. Thank you guys all for partaking in our show and being a part of what we were trying to put together down there at Cali.
And congratulations to Alicia Verduso. She's the one who won the Donald Brown signed football.
Yes, congrats.
Donald Butler. Josh did that earlier this season. Mix those two up.
I did it during the Monday Night Football
game,
guys.
Nobody's going to crucify you for that.
Not a lot of Donalds out there.
The football that was that was donated by the San Diego Sports Junkies, which was actually donated to us by Mike Maciejewski.
Mike Maciejewski.
I'm enunciating his Kevin Acey aspect of the show. But obviously a tough loss. I mean, the everything went great until the fourth quarter of that evening when we were up 17-6, and we just completely collapsed. Gave up 2 touchdowns, muffed a snap that took us out of field goal range, and dropped numerous passes on the last couple drives. I hate to say it, but it's kind of remnants of last year. I mean, there was a lot of games that we were winning going into the fourth quarter, and we just couldn't close the deal. I really wish it wasn't the case. I know there's going to be growing pains, but I really wish we could have pulled this one out because we've got a tough challenge coming this Sunday.
You know what I wish we had? That Denny Green audio. We had him, we let him off the hook.
Yeah. Right?
And we let him off the hook.
You want to crown him? Crown him.
Crown their ass. For me, guys, I looked at that game as I watched the replay. I got the benefit of being off Tuesday as well.
You got to watch it when you were sober. That's nice.
I told Jason, I go, you always, because I remember what happened. The detail stuff you want to go back and see after a night of drinking. But I found that we had a lot of squandered opportunities, some third downs that we can catch the ball. Routes were run bad or poorly by the Eddie Royal one specifically. He stopped on the route. Why are you doing that?
And it turned into an interception.
Exactly. Early on in the game, Rivers misses Floyd for a deep bomb by a yard, merely inches from his reach. That could have changed the game completely, getting off to a great start there.
Right.
It took a long time for this Chargers offense to get anything going. So.
Well, and I mean, the defense played great for a majority of the game, but there was squandered opportunities there. Weddle had an opportunity at interception.
Exactly.
Gilchrist, again, right in the palm of his hands. I don't want to talk bad about the guy. I know Jason loves him, but, that ball, Weddle, it was a diving grab, so Weddle really had to reach out and try to grab it. That's a lot tougher play than when the ball's right there.
Yeah, me and Jason are just shaking our head. No, that was right in Weddle's bread basket.
Let's stop. Let's not make excuses for Weddle just because we don't like Gilchrist.
No, I believe he should have made the catch, but I think it was a lot more degree of difficulty.
Both of those were the same difficulty. They both should have caught.
Yeah, there was.
There's no excuse.
Yeah, that one was right in his bread basket. He was diving. That was, I thought, an easy catch. That was just unacceptable.
Right. I think we tend to do that, though. I think a lot of people make excuses for Eric, but it's fine. That's a play he needs to make. He's a Pro Bowl, high-paid, free safety.
It's an easy thing to say, and everybody says it, and I'm going to say it right now. If you asked Eric Weddle,
he needs to make the play.
He would say,
yes,
I should have caught that, no doubt. Quickly, just a quick welcome. We have a new listener in the chat room, SD Fan 83,
which is at SamG1383 on Twitter.
What's up, Sam G?
What's up, Sammy? Hey, if you got any questions in that chat room, fire away, man. If you disagree with what we're talking about, we'd love your opinion as well. Some difficult news came through the waves today. Nick Hardwick, season-ending neck injury, nerve damage. He's on season-ending IR. what a huge loss. Let's hear what Phillip Rivers has on the.
Yeah, it's tough to lose him. You right, getting going, starting the season, you're so fired up, and obviously he and I, from a personal standpoint, been through so much, and looking forward to having a heck of a year. So you feel for him. You're confident in Rich Ornberger, but it's always tough getting that news about any of your teammates, especially him, just because of how close we work together and how many games we've been out there together.
Nick Hardwick, the combination of Hardwick and Rivers is kind of like a pitcher and catcher in baseball. They always have to be on the same page, and that's something that takes time. It takes time to build that relationship. They've been out there for 10 years, 160 games. They have 160 record over the last 10 years between the two of them. There's a lot of statistics that you can't pull out for Hardwick because they don't usually keep statistics for linemen.
Right.
But wins and losses, that guy has been a big part of our success over the last 10 years.
He's been a warrior, and I think the sad part about this whole deal is we kind of know that the time's ticking down on Nick Hardwick with the neck injury, and having serious conversations with doctors and realizing that his NFL career might be over. We're not going to say it's for sure because we don't know that, but the way he's talking, the way people are reacting, the way Phillip Rivers, you could hear it in his voice, he's kind of getting choked up.
Right.
He means a lot to him. He's a close personal friend to Phillip and his family is what he said. It's tough for Charger fans to swallow. He's been there through all the good battles and the Marty days and stuff. So for me too, it sucks, man. You almost want to shed a tear for him because he's one of the great guys that this organization has ever seen. He just got nominated a while back into the 50 anniversary greatest Chargers all time, which means a lot. There's a lot of great Chargers that have played here in San Diego. So for me, like I said, I think just winding down in a career, that's the sad part for me. And I hope it's not the last time we've ever seen him on the field. But yeah, definitely a sad day.
Yeah, and I'm here looking at the chat room, and I have the same sentiments as SD Fan 83. He said he's personally more focused on the idea of how the O-line will adapt with Hardwick out. But we know how well they did that last season, and that's the first. Today when I heard the news, that's kind of what I was trying to wrap my mind around. We often talk about how there's all these projections and expectations for players, and when a guy like this goes down, you have to take that step back and go, how will we change? How will this hurt us? How will we react to this? How will we evolve?
Well, I mean, there's a couple things. First of all, Nick Hardwick started 136 NFL games, including 67 in a row leading up to this. He had a stinger again in the 49ers game, which I didn't know until he had a press conference later today. Another one, in the Monday Night Football game. And this is something that I believe lingered even from last year.
All last year he battled that.
And, again, not to beat a dead horse, but, they had 10 years together. It's something, and I'm not saying that snap from Ornberger to Rivers was Ornberger's fault. I think Rivers had a big play in that, but that chemistry between the two, knowing when to snap the ball, like I said, again, going back to the pitcher and catcher situation, you got to have that relationship. With Ornberger, you got a guy that's 6 years in the league. He's had roughly 10 starts. It wouldn't surprise me if Tommy T is picking up the phone and making a couple phone calls, because we need the depth. And, is Ornberger the long term?
Not for another starter this year. That's for sure. We got a starter.
But is Ornberger the long term answer? It's yet to be seen.
Yeah, we know that Chris Watt can play center. Mm-hmm. So he'll definitely. We have a backup now, but we're going to need another O lineman now. Whether or not they bring someone up from the practice squad or he goes and he looks, just to throw that out there, is that anybody, they don't need a center. We're just looking for another offensive lineman.
Right.
And now with Clary probably not being able to come back, I'll just throw a name out there. And I know Darren had mentioned this last season. What would you guys think if they gave a look to Richie Incognito?
From from a lineman
I've heard that nowhere. I've just thrown it out.
From a lineman standpoint, the guy's an animal. I mean, he's got an attitude about himself, which, I mean, the thing with Tom Telesco and Mike McCoy is they tend to build this team around character guys. Right. I don't think he's a character guy, but if you're talking about in the trenches, absolutely. I think he could be somebody that could help this Chargers team as far as depth in the long run.
Yeah, he can help, but there's the questions about him, his character. I don't think what he did to the guy over in Miami was terrible. I know there was some hazing things going on. I think battling back and forth.
It got out of hand is what happened.
It just went too far. And, for that to go that far, you're a grown man. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird situation. I don't know the whole story. I didn't really read into it. I was sick of tired of hearing about it, to be honest.
That's what happens in the media these days is everything gets beaten to a pulp and you just get tired of hearing about it.
Hey, and you bring a guy in like that, put an incentive in his contract, you make any of these stupid mistakes you did in Miami, you're gone, dude.
Darren says as long as he still has that nasty.
Yeah. No, and I agree. I think any help right now with your veteran center going down, you need to look at all options right now.
And part of my rapid reaction article I put on SanDiegoSportsJunkies.com, one of the things that Nick had mentioned numerous times that he has the greatest job in the world. He gets paid to fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So is this the last we see of Nick Hardwick? God, I hope not. I think Hardwick
I think it is, though.
I think it is. I really do, because 2 years ago he was already talking about it, and Rivers had to bring him back and say, hey, things have changed. We brought in a new regime. We're headed back in the winning ways. Stick around. We have a chance for
he had a title. He had health concerns there too.
Right.
It wasn't just
but
Rivers
kind of convinced him of the fact
that part,
we're heading back in the right direction. We have a chance to do something really good here.
Right.
And he wanted him to be a part of it. But at this point, I would be shocked to see Nick Hardwick come back. But at the same time, if he does, and he's healthy, absolutely would I want him back.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate what you guys have been saying. We're looking for depth, so we're not looking for a guy to come in right now and take that spot, because I think Ornberger,
he's done a solid job.
He's doing a good job, and with more experience, he'll get better at it.
Right.
I know in the chat room again, San Diego fan mentioned he may have struggled a little bit with the blitzing from Arizona, but that's something that you get better at with practice in real game situations.
Right.
It's not like you can go into your first game coming off the bench and then you're perfect that day. There's some things that you can't replicate in practice.
Arizona brought the hammer all night long on that offensive line. They blitzed 90% of their plays is what I was told, or what I read online. That is a phenomenal stat right there. Usually you're looking around the 60 to 70% range for teams that are just aggressive. They were 90%.
They were all in, and we had no answer for it.
We had no answer for it.
Really quick, want to give a shout out to the return of the
Raider
Hater. He's on a 15-minute break at work.
What up? Oh, 15 minutes, dog. Better get that smoke in and your San Diego Sports Junkies fix.
Hey, man, type your questions in the chat room. We'll bring them up during Jake's Take, which is right around the corner, and in our third session of tonight's show. We're going to take a quick break, guys. We come back, we're going to have Jake Hefner from BoltBeat.com with Jake's Take. He's going to break down a little bit of that Chargers-Cardinals game. So stick around for Jake's Take right after the break.
Okay, you fantasy football players of San Diego, you know what time it is. It's your time on the Fantasy Corner of San Diego Sports Junkies. I'm your host, Steve-O, and thank you for tuning in every Wednesday to enjoy some fantasy football smack talk with myself and the rest of the Sports Junkies. Now that preseason's over, I encourage you, our valued listener, to tune in weekly for your starts and sits and my sneaky free agent pickups of each week. So throughout the week, hit me up on Twitter at FantasyCorner17, or you can email me at thefantasycorner17@gmail.com. And always stay locked in Wednesdays on the Fantasy Corner at www.SanDiegoSportsJunkies.com/fantasy. Bring it. But they can't get me down. Got my own self by my side, and mentally we gotta be free. I see the wickedness coming.
Do
you need help with your business project that is due? Maybe you need business cards to help your business stand out. We at San Diego Sports Junkies got you covered. SK Digital Imaging can do it all. Give our buddy Sean K a call, 858-408-0732. SK Digital Imaging, from business cards to the bigger projects, SK Digital Imaging and our buddy Sean K will get your printing done right.
What's up, Bolt fans? First of all, that song will never get old in my book. Diehard fans alike, it was a tough loss in Arizona.
It was.
But, you got to know that it's a long season, and we're going to have a lot of great games this season as well. Guys, we want to welcome on the show Jake Hefner from BoltBeat.com. This is Jake's Take. What's going on, Jake?
Gentlemen, what's happening on this Wednesday night?
Not much, buddy. We're just licking our wounds over here.
We missed you out at Cali Comfort. We had a really good time out there, a real good turnout.
I could imagine what the environment was like down there at Cali Comfort watching that game on Monday. It couldn't have been pretty.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. We had we all felt like we had the game all wrapped up, and it didn't end very well. But the show beforehand was great. There was such a huge turnout. We had a ton of people there. It was really nice. We missed you out there.
Nice. I wish I could have been out there with you guys.
So, Jake, let's go on to old topic number one, Frank Reich's offense. That's your first take for tonight. What do you think, man?
Well, there's such things called as growing pains. And there was a question, earlier on in the offseason, what was the Chargers' offense going to look like without Ken Wisenhunt at the helm? And I can't come down too hard on Frank Reich here because, it was his first game as the O coordinator for the Chargers. It's not like Ken Wisenhunt didn't have anything to learn as the season went on last season, but it just seemed like, obviously the Charger players, especially on the offense, were not in sync. It didn't seem like there was no sense of urgency. There was no tempo. There was a lack of the hurry-up offense, especially when you kind of weigh that against what the Chargers said that they were going to do at the beginning of the offseason was get faster. You just didn't see that type of that push for that type of offense. Alone in the first half, the Chargers had 80 passing yards. 80.
Uncharacteristic.
Right. In the beginning of the third quarter, the Chargers came out, they put up 82 passing yards in the game. And they started getting that rhythm, and they started putting together those no-huddle packages. And you had the defense back on their heels a little bit. So you could kind of see what was affecting the Cardinals' defense was that the Chargers was able to change that tempo. Again, they are able, and this is how they won last year, with the time of possession, with the efficiency on third down. This is how they were able to win games because they were able to, A, control the clock, and B, control the tempo. You just didn't see that at all in this game. It just, that coupled with whether it was dropped passes or miscues on routes or, fumbling the snaps, it doesn't matter. It just seemed like everything that could have gone wrong for an offense for one single night did. And, for Frank Reich, it's possibly it's a good thing that, this happened in the first game of the season. Obviously, you want to get better as the season goes along. You don't want to get worse. But definitely going into this next game against Seattle, Frank Reich is going to have to come up with an offensive strategy to attack the best defense in the league. And it's not going to be easy. If he thought that the Cardinals front seven, who was constantly getting pressure to Rivers all night long, was a challenge, he's got an even bigger one come Sunday.
Now, do you think that part of the tempo issue and the no-huddle issue was because we were on the road and a little bit of crowd noise? Do you think that being at home next week, do you think that might change that?
I mean, it will change that. I mean, again, it's change is inevitable, and change is what's going to have to be needed in order for the Chargers to pull out wins. I mean, let's not forget, Chargers were one of the best running teams in the league last year. They thrived on running the ball and controlling the clock. That's how they were able to gain such efficiency. That was their bread and butter. It honestly, and I was even surprised when I looked at the final stats that the Chargers only had I think they put it together about 54 yards rushing. I was even surprised that they had that. It just always seemed like the Chargers just couldn't muster anything aside from the Ryan Matthews gallop to the end zone. It just seemed like they couldn't do anything in the front four. The offensive line was just getting beaten every single time. And, it's, again, the offensive line is going to have some work to do. They had some trouble with this in the preseason. They've already seen what Seattle can do. They played them in week 2 of the preseason, so they kind of have a little bit of a good idea what they're about. And they're going to have to open up some holes. They're going to have to control the clock because we've seen Russell Wilson. We've seen Marshawn Lynch. You're going to have to treat them almost like a Peyton Manning-esque. You do not want them on the field because, if Carson Palmer can rush for 30 yards on you, I shudder to think what's in store with Russell Wilson come on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely, and we saw it in the preseason. I mean, we had difficulties, trying to stop them in the preseason. Granted, we didn't have our starters in there the whole time, so we hopefully will see an improvement there. But what is your feelings, in regards to Phillip Rivers' performance?
Well, Phillip Rivers didn't have his best day. We can clearly see that. It was, he was definitely out of sync with his receivers. The interception that he threw, where Eddie Royal should have came back, shouldn't have kept going past a certain yard line. You had your other wide receivers who would drop passes. You had miscommunication with your O-line. Rivers on third down, where it was his strong suit last year. I mean, let's not forget he beat out Peyton Manning in passer rating for efficiency last year. I mean, the best in the game right there, he beat last year. But for Rivers, I mean, he was 4 for 12 for 30, which is good enough for 33%, 98 yards and 1 interception, which is good enough for a 29.2 passer rating on third down.
Wow.
I mean, that just does not get it done. Not when you go up against a defense like Arizona. And let's not forget, Arizona had one of the best defenses in the league last year. So despite every opportunity that the Chargers had to put that game away, they were still playing a good team. We got a familiar face back there in Antonio Cromartie that's also paired up along with Patrick Peterson. But even without the Honey Badger, Tywann Matthew back there, again, it always seemed like there was almost like another defensive back there that was just around the ball. The Chargers constantly were in third and long situations. Phillip Rivers just consistently could not get in a rhythm. He finally picked it up at the beginning of the third quarter, but after that, it just seemed like, he couldn't do much with it. And then we had additional problems in the red zone. Another point of emphasis that head coach Mike McCoy says we have to get better at. Mm-hmm. We got a few turnovers in the game, and unfortunately, only one we were able to turn in to points. We weren't able to turn the other one into points, unfortunately. You squander, 2 interceptions. But at the same time, Phillip Rivers took responsibility for what happened, especially the botched fumble at the end of the game. It was funny. I said it to myself at the end of the game. It kind of seemed like to me that entire game was a mixture of the 2006 New England playoff loss, the Houston opener of last year, and the final snap of the KC game, Halloween from 2 years ago. It just seemed like every aspect of that was mixed into that one game.
Hey, Jake. And I just wanted to get your opinion real quick. Now, I'm not going to attribute all this. I mean, you can't attribute it to jitters for Phillip Rivers, right? I mean, he's played on bigger stages than Monday Night Football on Week 1, right? I mean, he looked like he was so uncomfortable at times, and I know we discussed the line issues. Now, is this a product of just new play calling by Frank Reich? I mean, I know we kind of went over that, but what can we pinpoint this on? I was real disappointed in the way we used Woodhead as well, and Donald Brown. I just didn't get it. It was a real big head scratcher for me. And like we touched on, it's Frank Reich's first year, but holy cow, man, it was the complete opposite of what we did last year. I mean, total failure by everything. Like, everything was bad.
Well, and you can't throw it all on Phillip Rivers' shoulders, in my opinion. There was a lot of balls that were put on the money that our receivers dropped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's funny that you bring that up about like the 3-back and the way that they used them. I thought the exact same thing myself. You weren't really giving, whether it was Woodhead who played 29 plays or Matthews who was in for 24. You have to instill some type of confidence, especially in your bell cow type of back. You have to get in some kind of rhythm. So if you keep this constant rotation between every single one of your running backs, you're not really going to generate anything. It got to a point where it was like, okay, if Matthews is in, we know it's going to be a run, or if Woodhead's in, we know it's either, it's going to be a screen pass or he's going to try to run up the middle. There just wasn't. It almost seemed predictable, and I don't want to think too much into this, but I almost think, and the only reason it almost seemed like they knew exactly what was going to happen before it was snapped.
Thomas Kelly.
And I almost think. You're right on the money. It's exactly what I'm thinking. I don't want to read too much into that because not a lot of people think that much, but when you play the Chargers the week before in the preseason and you come back and you have one of your guys who's been acclimated with a starter last year on defense for them, who knows this offense well, I mean, I don't want to say that that's the catalyst to it, but I kid you not, man, it just seemed like it was way too predictable of an offense or way too much of a, we know what you're going to do before you do it type of thing. So I don't want to, I'm with you guys. I don't attribute it at all to Phillip Rivers. There was a lot of variables that went into it, but this is a point of emphasis that Frank Reich needs to take moving forward and to mix things up a little bit better.
Now, I mean, moving forward, we're kind of transitioning into your third topic, and that's a lack of running game. I know you said that, we definitely looked predictable. I do agree to some point, but can you contribute some of what we're doing to arguably the best run-stopping defense? I mean, they were ranked number 1 last year in stopping the run, so obviously they're still trying to maintain that title going into 2014.
Well, sure. I mean, it's almost. When I say lack of run game, it's not necessarily the Chargers weren't looking to run, but the fact is that they got dominated up front on the offensive line when they attempted to run. You're playing actually a depleted defense from last year, whether it was people who left in free agency or people who were on, injured reserve or just weren't playing. I mean, come on, we talked about this a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Darnell Dockett was not in this game. You signed Tommy Kelly right off the street. But again, another guy who has familiarity with the Chargers offense. So he's familiar with that offensive line that he's going to go up against. He's familiar with those running backs. There's a lot of things that we really didn't take into account when it came to this. We just kind of thought that the offense wasn't going to miss a beat, that the Ken Wisenhunt factor wasn't going to be that big of a deal. And again, it's one game, so we cannot jump to any conclusions on that. But the offensive line, especially with Nick Hardwick out, has to do a much better job of opening up lanes. It just seemed, and when they did, it almost seemed like our running backs were going the opposite direction of the hole. So again, there was really no sync between whether it was the offensive line, excuse me, or the running backs coming out of the backfield. It just didn't seem like it was working. Again, mix that in with predictability, and you just have a very depleted run game that, of course, is going to affect the entire Chargers offense.
Speaking of the running backs, I think one of the issues we had was I think we played a little bit scared in the sense that we kept commenting about what a great job Woodhead and even Donald Brown were doing picking up the blitz but the problem with that is they were staying in and blocking, and with all those times they blitzed, we didn't have an opportunity to send Woodhead out and make them pay for that. Do you look forward to them maybe utilizing Woodhead a little bit more in the passing game, especially when they're blitzing?
Yeah, what was even, I'm glad you touched on that, because what more is even surprising to me, I didn't even see John Phillips out there that much. And, you saw two tight end sets with Antonio Gates and with Ladarius Green, which is something that we've all wanted to see,
right,
because we think it's a matchup nightmare. But if you have to use either one of them to do your blocking, it's a big, big mistake. Again, the Cardinals just came up with a brilliant defensive plan. They dared Phillip Rivers to beat them, and they came out on top. They blitzed all night long, and there was no screen game. I barely even saw maybe one or two the entire game.
Yeah.
And with Woodhead, that is something that you can definitely use him with. We've seen it in the past. We've seen him create very big positive chunks of yards with as quick and as nimble and as small as he can disappear back there behind the offensive line. You just didn't see that facet because you had to have your running back protecting the quarterback, and you couldn't use that facet of your game, which was just really unfortunate. So the bad part about this is that especially going up against a Seattle team, they may have just put a blueprint together on how to take apart the Chargers' offense. You blitz and you blitz and you blitz.
Right.
So the offensive line is going to be holding the most responsibility here.
But at the same time, you got to think that, as a coach, as far as Mike McCoy, he's got to know that's coming, and they need to have a form of a game plan for that. If they're going to bring the house, then they need to have a game plan for plays to counteract them bringing the house and keep them honest.
Yeah, and from what Mike McCoy said, after his game, they admitted they made mistakes. Phillip Rivers, takes the majority of the blame, which he should. Again, it's like he said, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. They will get better. I mean, again, we've seen for the first week of football, we saw some of the titans of the quarterbacks fall on their face. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees. So it's not like all the greats did well this weekend.
You have to think. You have to think Frank Reich's, kind of going back to last year a little bit and some of the plays, and kind of just trying to figure out what he can do to open up this offense a little bit. I mean, like you said, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but you didn't see anything that resembled a quick strike offense, that a screen to Eddie Royal in the flat, or a dump off to Woodhead. You gotta feel like they're going to go to the tape and go, you know what, ball needs to come out quick. We need to get to our playmakers. You just didn't see any of that in Arizona, and I know that's what you're trying to say, but it just baffles me how vanilla and maybe just too ordinary they were in Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, again, it just didn't seem like there was any adjustments to be made, even if you take away, the scoring drive that the Chargers put together at the beginning of the third quarter. There was just no adjustment. It just seemed like, they could only move it so far, and they couldn't figure out how to take that next step to beat them. I mean, especially when you have, I think it was first or second and 2, and you can't get 2 yards. I mean, you've got to open up the playbook in some regard. You have to be able to figure out get 2 yards. If you can't do that, then we have a whole bunch of other problems. But again, moving forward, Seattle, Frank Reich and Mike McCoy, they're going to have to retool the offense. They're going to have to rework and get prepared for what that defense is going to bring them, because like we saw in their game against Green Bay, they don't flip their cornerback. So maybe that is something that they can take advantage of moving forward, and hopefully they'll be able to negate the blitzing and take them apart over the middle.
Right. Real quick take. We got a couple, interactions on Twitter before we move on to the number 4 topic here. Crowd noise. How much of a factor was the crowd noise in Arizona? At Geppetto and at Chargers Moose, they both agree that had some effect on the concentration of Phillip Rivers and the offense.
Well, I mean, no doubt about it. It was loud. It was definitely loud down there in Arizona. But again, there was a lot of Charger fans that were also down there.
Right.
So, again, I still feel that the Chargers, and you guys have touched on it too, that the Chargers have played in louder places before. And when push comes to shove at that point of the game, I mean, it's not like there were, that many false starts there wasn't really that much miscommunication other than the botched snap. It was more miscommunication that Rivers has with his receivers and the dropped passes and the missed routes. Going in the long run, I don't think that those things were that big of an impact into why the Chargers lost the game. I think there was a lot of different other factors that went into it. And if you were to put crowd noise into it, you'd have to put it at the bottom of the list.
Jake, I know there was a lot of, things that we wish had gone better, but what are some of the things that you thought went well?
Well, I can go ahead and transition to number 4 in this regards. Let's start with Jason Verrett. He looked anything but a rookie, in my opinion, on Monday night. He looked fantastic. You kind of get to see why he was in a red no-contact jersey in practice, because he played fast, he played physical, he had 4 tackles, he had a broken-up pass. Let's not forget, the Chargers held Larry Fitzgerald without a target for 3 quarters of that game, something that has never been done before. And you kind of, and I read a bunch of people's responses on Twitter. The secondary, along with the arrival of Brandon Flowers, and you can kind of see it in Sharice Wright a little bit. They're playing a lot more physical. They're tackling harder. They're not over anticipating moves. They're letting the running back or the wide receiver make their mistake. I can't remember who the receiver was. I think it was Josh Brown that was coming over the middle, and there was a great tackle that we just stuck him for a loss, and I think it was Brandon Flowers that actually made the play. And it was close to a first down, but we held him down to the 1 yard that they couldn't get. But it's just, I think with Jason Verrett and with Brandon Flowers' arrival there, they've kind of revamped that secondary a little bit, and they've kind of changed the attitude of it. So the secondary in general, and specifically Jason Verrett for his first NFL game, I thought looked very impressive.
Yeah, I think Verrett looked really good. He made, he was very physical and very just aggressive.
Fast,
yeah,
man. He looked fast.
But Flowers, he was just a lot quieter, just very solid.
He was the one shutting down Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah, you didn't hear about it because the ball didn't go that way. So I think those were the 2 takes I took from the corners. One was, getting tested a lot, and you heard the announcers all night saying they're going to test the rookie. They're testing the rookie, but he stood. He
stood
tall. He was up to the challenge, and then Flowers just a solid, quiet night, and that was a good thing. We didn't hear from him in regards to mistakes.
My only question is with as happy as we were with the way the secondary played, how the hell did he throw for over 300 yards? Where did those come from? I know they had the
fourth quarter.
They had the one big play, but
Michael Floyd had a great night.
Yeah, Michael Floyd had a big night and a big catch. But where the hell did the rest of them come from with our secondary playing so good?
It came from over the middle. The middle linebackers. The middle linebackers to me actually seemed just out of position. It seemed like the middle of the field was completely wide open. John Carlson actually had a couple of balls that were actually, that he broke off for. I think there was one for 16 and another one I think that was 12. But you were seeing kind of the same, problem with the Chargers defense that's happened in the past where teams have been able to attack us over the middle. So the Chargers took care of the outside pretty well. But as far as the inside and the crossing routes, whether it's by the slot receiver or the tight end, they really need to buckle down with that. They need to have an extra safety that's down there. I know that they were having one hover around Fitzgerald the majority of the night, but at the same time, you have to protect that part of the field. That's taking a play, or that's taking a page out of the Chargers book, and that's just gradually grinding out these 80-yard drives, these 91-yard drives at the end of the game, and just deflating a defense. That's where they got it from.
Right, and at Geppetto on Twitter, he kind of wants to know what your thoughts is on Manti. The guy looks like he's getting in the way. How long till we see Cavell Connor? Is his question.
You think that he's getting in the way?
That's his opinion. He thinks that Manti Te'o is not.
I thought Manti looked good actually.
I thought Manti played one of his best games that I had ever seen him in the blue and yellow. To be perfectly honest, there was one play I can't remember if it was Ellington or if it was a receiver or whatnot, but he actually drug him down by the back of the jersey.
Yes.
he seemed like he was very much in the play, especially on the defensive line whenever it came to the running game. He's not thinking so much anymore. There's less hesitation with him. He's starting to play faster at that game speed that the rest of the team is playing with. So, I mean, I have no problem at all with the way Manti played. Again, if this is a step in the right direction, then I think he's only going to get better as the season goes on.
Do you think with Jaleel Dye being out, do you think that is an upgrade over Gilchrist? And I only say that, obviously everybody knows how I feel about Gilchrist, the fact that he can't catch a ball. But I just think Dye has that fear factor a little bit. He lays the wood, and he seems to help a lot in the middle of the field.
Well, sure. I mean, again, if we could talk about the physicality that we already saw from the defense in the secondary, just imagine what that could be if you add Jaleel Addae out there, because he's one of the most physical players that's on this defense. There's an attitude that he brings to the game. It's a different type of safety style that he brings that's opposite of Eric Weddle, because Eric Weddle's normally the ball hawking type.
Right.
And Jaleel's, more of the physical type. And that's what you need. You need that type of symmetry back there with the safeties. And again, if you can only feed that off of your defensive back, and specifically, that's where you need to be covering the middle of the field, is with your physical safety. You need to be knocking these guys off their routes. You need to be breaking up these passes. You need to be tackling these type of guys. So, crossing the fingers that the health does get better for Jaleel going into Sunday. He hasn't practiced in over a month now. He didn't play the first time that we played Seattle in the preseason. So having him back there would be a huge boost, in my opinion, to the defensive secondary.
Now let's not forget Mr. Jerry Atachu. What a monster performance that he had in his first game. Obviously sacking the quarterback, causing a fumble, blocking a punt.
Beast mode.
The guy was, all over the place. I am very, very excited early on with his performance.
Yeah, that's the one silver lining with Jerry Atachu. Player of the game, no doubt about it. It's just unfortunate that the efforts that were put in by Jason Verrett and Jerry Atachu were unfortunately wasted in a loss.
Right.
But like you said, all those stats, a blocked punt, a strip sack, a forced fumble, and he only played on 19 plays in the game.
And got 4 tackles.
That is astonishing, and that is a great start for a second-round rookie, especially in the linebacking position where the Chargers have suffered with their linebackers that they've traditionally taken high in the draft.
Right.
This can only mean good things for the Chargers defense, because not only did Jerry show that he can get to the quarterback, play physical, play fast, this has to show something to John Pagano to implement him more in the defensive scheme.
Right.
How many times did we see Dwight Freeney almost wrap up Carson Palmer or Melvin Ingram on the other side?
Which, I mean, you could look at that either way, too. I mean, what Freeney did was a very good positive. I mean, obviously we want him to take down the quarterback, but the fact that he was to get to Palmer on almost any time he wanted was very impressive.
Yeah, and again, it was just, the fact that he's able to get there, yes, is a good thing. But Pagano also needs to get more creative with his blitzes and how he's going to get there. You didn't see that type of pressure that you saw in the San Francisco game with Corey Liuget and Kendall Reyes. You just didn't see it that much up the middle. So if you can get it from your outside linebackers, hey, that's great. If you can use Jerry Atachu more in order to get more of a speed aspect off the edge and give the offense one more guy to worry about, then it's just another page that you can turn and say, hey, we can do it from this way, or we can blitz from this side, or we can have the safety come up from here. It just opens up that much more when you have another guy on the defense who could contribute. And whether or not you want to talk about, the leadership of Dwight Freeney, the return of Melvin Ingram, the physicality of, some are calling for Kavell Connor to play in the middle. But when you add Jerry Atachu to that front along with Reyes and Liuget, it's an immense possibility of what you can do.
Sorry about that, Jake.
Sorry.
No. All right, keep going. We interrupted you. I'm sorry. We were talking about something else. We were trying to go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was actually finished.
Oh, okay.
So they were too concerned about the predictions later. Wanted to get that in before you got out of here.
I was having a hard time writing Jason's chicken scratch, so we fumbled the ball, for lack of terms there.
Yeah.
So what he wanted to do is get your prediction for Seattle's matchup, for the home opener.
Don't worry, guys. Just like the Chargers at the beginning of the season, these mistakes are going to happen.
We're fumbling snaps over here, dropping passes. I'm Eric Weddle, and I just dropped a hand-me-down interception.
Well, look, final predictions for this game. I'll admit, I was in this exact same spot 1 year ago when we lost to the Houston Texans, and the next team we had up in Week 2 was the Philadelphia Eagles, and absolutely everybody said that we were going to get smashed. They put up 60 points on us with as fast as that offense was.
Michael Irvin.
and we went into Philly and we won. It just always seems like these games that the Chargers have absolutely no shot of winning, they win. But they, for some reason, only win when everybody predicts that they will lose. So in that regard, I am not going to be predicting that they win.
All right. Because
I'm hoping that reverse psychology still works in a sense.
And it's funny you say that because Justin and I, before the show, were talking. We went to a Baltimore game, I want to say it was 2 or 3 years ago, and no one gave us a prayer against Baltimore. And the Chargers at home completely destroyed them. And
I remember that game.
I think you're right. I think the Chargers play the best when their backs are to the wall.
Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate fact. I mean, it's good. You go up against these great teams, these playoff caliber teams, and you say to yourself, hey, they can hang with the best, but you just wish it would be a little bit more consistent and take care of the games that you know that you should have won.
Right.
So, I mean, let's not forget, one crazy stat out of last year is that against 6 playoff teams that were returning for the season last year, the Chargers were 5-1.
Yeah.
So they get built up for games like this, and especially with what happened in Seattle in Week 2, they want some revenge.
And Nick Hardwick on local radio here was quoted as saying, don't worry about the team. The team, because fans are making comments about the Chargers being afraid of Seattle, and he said it's not a matter of being afraid. We are not afraid to play anybody. It's a matter of being prepared and doing your job.
Well, sure. That is a pros quote right there. If any player, and I'm talking any player, not the Chargers, not Seattle, not anybody, if you go into this game and your opponent with fear, then you've already lost.
Right.
So, absolutely not. The Chargers are not scared to play Seattle. Charger fans shouldn't be afraid for them to play Seattle. These are the type of games that the Chargers get up for. These are the type of games that, for some strange reason, Phillip Rivers thrives in. So hopefully we'll see another repeat of that type of performance. Hopefully the offense will get going. The defense will be able to contain Russell Wilson this time around. You have to stop Marshawn Lynch. You have another X factor in Percy Harvin that for somehow you're going to have to figure out how to slow down at the very least.
Yes.
In all honesty, I'd like to say it's going to be a shootout, but I can't. I think it's going to be a very good defensive battle with our defense and Seattle's defense as well. So I'm going to actually go low scoring, and I'm going to go 17-10 Seattle.
All right.
Well, you heard it from Jake Hefner from BoltBeat.com. Jake, as always, I want to thank you for being on the show. We're going to roll over to a commercial break. When we come back, when we talk a little bit more about that home opener against the World Championship Seattle Seahawks, and talk a little bit more about just other football topics on the agenda. So, Jake, as always, thank you for being a part of the conversation. We appreciate it each and every week, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on. Enjoy the game on Sunday.
You too. We'll talk to you next week, Jake.
Later, buddy.
All righty, guys.
That was Jake's Take with Jake Hefner from BoltBeat.com. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with you for more Chargers football. Are you looking for a bar for your next sporting event? Come to Cali Comfort Sports Bar in the heart of Spring Valley, where they are passionate about sticking to the true barbecue traditions. Using their unique low and slow method, you are guaranteed great barbecue no matter what you order. From pulled pork to tri-tip, football to MMA, Cali Comfort is your one-stop shop for all your sports and barbecue needs. Find them online, CaliComfortSD.com.
Do you need help with your business project that is due? Maybe you need business cards to help your business stand out. We at San Diego Sports Junkies got you covered. SK Digital Imaging can do it all. Give our buddy Sean K a call, 858-408-0732. SK Digital Imaging, from business cards to the bigger projects, SK Digital Imaging and our buddy Sean K will get your printing done right.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans.
By the fans.
And as always, we're opinionated. Whether it's good or bad, we're fans, and we deserve to have our opinion, and so do you. So feel free to hit us up on Twitter, hit us up in the chat room. Let your voice be heard, so to speak. Send us your questions, your comments, and we'll be more than happy to bring them on during the show.
Yeah, we got some catching up to do in the chat room. We try not to interrupt too much when we got Jake on. We want to hear all the things he's got to say, but it would be nice to actually go back a little bit and talk a little bit more about the Seattle game and what people thought. You had some thoughts on that, Mikey?
And against the Cardinals.
Against the Cardinal game, excuse me.
No worries. So I guess my first issue that I've had, and God, I love Twitter and I hate Twitter, but I guess the first issue I had is the whole Frank Reich thing. And look, regardless of what you guys say about the offense, we played bad. Phillip Rivers played subpar. That interception, regardless of what you guys say, the defender was even if Roll doesn't stop, the defender's playing inside coverage.
Yeah,
okay?
He didn't really have anywhere to go.
Yeah, there was nowhere to go. Okay, and the fumble that again, the announcers on TV called it on Rivers. They know, I thought it was on Rivers, but we dropped a shitload of passes. Mm-hmm. We didn't block well. They pressured us. We didn't handle it well, and. You know what? It was such a close game that those mistakes are the ones that kick you in the ass. We couldn't tackle Carson Palmer.
Yeah.
Don't blame Reich for that. I mean, the running backs kept coming out, and we were conceding first downs left and right, especially towards the end of the game. I know on TV the announcers pointed out how we were dropping 6 guys back behind the line of behind the first down marker.
Yeah.
And they would either throw we're just playing very soft and deep, almost prevent, and. I mean, those mistakes in an 18-17 game, those are the mistakes that do you in.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to hear that it was the offense. We all thought the Cardinal defense was going to be worse because they lost all those players. Clearly, they're not.
Yeah.
Clearly, they played well. They had a good scheme for the players they had, and so to blame it on Reich. Or not blame it on players. I mean, we talked about the interceptions that should have been picked off.
Right.
Was it Gilchrist?
Okay,
and
I'll blame it half on Reich and half on the players.
Well, I think that there's plenty of blame to go around.
Yeah,
anytime you lose in the NFL, there's lots of blame to go around. The thing the thing that's encouraging to me is the fact that we made all of those terrible, terrible mistakes, and we still had a chance to win the ball game.
Of course.
And it was just classic, the fact that we ended up I don't want to say we lost the game because of this play, because we didn't. It just ended the game for us, was a drop pass. And I know that it was tipped, and I know that it changed directions, but like I said before, NFL receivers, every single one of them in the league would say, I should have caught that ball.
Well, like at the beginning of the show, I said, what did this game sum up to me? It was missed opportunities for me. And the only reason I sprinkle in a Frank Reich,
he deserves some blame too.
Well, that's it, and I'm not saying he's totally his fault. When you get that much pressure, you need to call plays that supplement the pressure. You need to call screens. What did Ken Wisenhunt do very well last year for this offense? You saw delayed handoffs. You saw things to push the coverage back a little bit, keep them on their toes. You just saw little things. And this is his first game. I'm not going to jump all over him, but you have to put a little blame on Frank Reich and a lot of the blame on the players because they didn't make their plays.
I'm going to just say I agree with you, Justin. Sorry.
That's all right. I'm going to wear my name tag next week.
Sorry. Hello, my name is Justin.
Hello. Hi, Justin.
But, again, I've never seen Antonio Gates drop, at least 2 passes that I've seen him. We talked about this on the show or after the show on Monday. I mean, there was a crossing route where he could have had the ball for 25, 30 yards. And that's his play. That's what he does. He crosses and he goes away from the defender. SD Fan 83 here says, John Pagano defense. I know many people said last season that it was necessary based on the cornerbacks we had, but it continued for most part of Monday night. And, again, we played soft.
Yeah.
I thought we played soft. And again, the fact that Verrett played so well, I don't want to jump and say it's an indication of the fact that they were able to get so many passes. But, I mean, like I said, just pulling back was really what bothered me. Like
conceding first down.
Conceding first downs.
Yeah.
There was I'm trying to, the one thing that I don't like about the chat room here is when we get so much action and participation in it, it's hard to go back and read. I'm trying to go back. Darren had said something, and
he said, "Pump your brakes."
Yeah, it really was. It was
that was about an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. It was when Jake was on. I wanted to read it, and I can't get it back. But it was basically, saying, "Calm down, guys." Like we always talk about overreaction Monday. Now, of course, we played on Monday, so it was overreaction for us. It's overreaction Wednesday. I'm paraphrasing now, but basically, Arizona's defense is good. I don't care how many people they lost or changed. Every team has turnover with players. Arizona has a good defense. We played against a good defense, and I think that the Chargers are going to be fine.
And with all that said, I still believe that we were the better team on that field.
Yes.
I totally believe we were the better team. I believe that we gave that game away with the missed plays and with the poor performance in the fourth quarter, offensively and defensively.
Yeah, I actually think that comeback is a little bit more on the offense because we could have at any time put that game away by driving down and scoring or just handling a snap. That reminds me so much of the Kansas City game. Handling a snap and kicking a field goal. And, there we go. Somebody found
SD
it for
Fan
me.
83.
Thank you. It says Arizona is legit, and we had plenty of chances to win. This team will be fine. Another week 2 that nobody gives us a chance to win, just like last season. This team is fine. That was from Darren earlier in the chat room,
I agree with Darren.
Yes.
I think this team is fine. I don't think we'll win this week, but I think this team is fine. You look at our schedule, and we can go over that later, but this team is fine. This team is fine, and we shouldn't. I'm not on the ledge. I knew coming in you needed to split these 2 first games, regardless. What happens, I think 1-1 would have been amazing because you played 2 very good opponents in the NFC West. But looking at the schedule, they can get on a roll later. I'm not concerned about all that. But yes, nobody needs to panic here. There's no panic buttons. Just make better play calls, make the plays you're supposed to make, and this team's going to do just fine like last season.
One side note, I know we're talking about the Arizona game, but one side note that Geppetto wanted to bring to the forefront. Did you guys hear that Qualcomm is putting up new banners across the entire stadium to signify, the Chargers' history? Were you aware of that?
Yes.
No.
Yes,
instead of all the other teams,
exactly,
right?
Instead of all the other teams, they're going to have banners that go around the stadium to basically showcase Bolt's history.
And that'll be this
I think
Sunday?
It's a great look. Yeah. Absolutely.
Maybe they should, can they wrap the stadium? That car wrap they do? Make it look like a new stadium?
Yeah.
Can they put wrap all over it?
The new stadium smell?
Shiny vinyl all over the stadium.
Hang one of those Christmas trees.
Yeah, put it on every section.
So it looks like they got Junior Seau. They got a 75th anniversary, banner, the AFC West Divisional Championship banner, AFC Championship banner.
And that should have been done a long time ago.
So, I mean, I'm glad to see that because
that's great.
For the Chargers and their fans, we have history. I mean, there has been some very good teams in our history,
right.
and there's been a lot of good things that this team has accomplished, even though we haven't got the Super Bowl that we all want. But we need to showcase that.
Right.
Most of the other franchise do, and I'm glad to see.
Well,
the
they
Chargers
made those
have done
changes at the beginning of the year at training camp. You've seen the AFC West title banners all at Chargers Park. Those are brand new to an addition to Chargers Park this season. Right in front of the players as they're walking back into the locker rooms.
Right.
It says every championship that the Chargers have ever won in their history. So I thought that was a cool touch. I think what the new regime is trying to do here is spruce it up a little bit, have a little pride. So.
Yeah, I think just having that will make it more, make it more of a Chargers stadium.
Right.
When you used to walk in and see all the flags, it was kind of like there wasn't anything that said.
Which stadium is
this?
Yeah,
there wasn't anything that made it said this is the San Diego Chargers stadium.
Right.
Like you just felt like you were at
an NFL stadium.
An NFL stadium.
Right.
So that'll be good just for that.
Looks like the SD Fan 83 says they're going to have a Charlie Joyner banner as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, I was just trying to rattle off a few. They're going to definitely have some of our Bolts Hall of Fame. They're going to have some AFC West Championship banners and so on and so forth. So it'd be really nice just to see our history. And like Mike said, it's going to look like Chargers Stadium, not whose stadium is this? Because the next thing they need to improve is they need to improve the horrible mix of fans that we have in our stadium, of the fact that, you go to a stadium and it's like 50-50 depending on whatever team we play. It could be the Jacksonville Jaguars. It seems like there's 50% Jaguar fans in our stadium, and they need to fix that. And obviously winning will help in the long run. I think the more this team will win, we'll have more Charger fans in the seats. And I think, the transition they're doing with those games like against the Jaguars that a lot of fans probably don't want to go to because it's not going to be competitive.
Right.
They lower the prices and make it easier for you to go that game, so they do have more sellouts. So hopefully less blackouts also.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What about this upcoming game, guys? Any thoughts? Well, I know we have thoughts, but what's your guys' thought? What's your thought, Justin?
Well, my overall feel on the game is obviously it's going to be tough. We know that, and I think we come out with a better game plan. I think it's going to be a tight game. I really do. I don't think anybody's going to get blown out either way here, or there's going to be some lopsided score we didn't think of. I don't know. I don't know how to feel. Going off of the Arizona game, it leaves you wondering a little bit how we're going to play. So I want to see more of what we did last year and mixing up the offensive play calls a little bit, that just to throw the defense back a little bit. They're going to bring the heat. Seattle's very good. What they did to Green Bay on that Thursday night game to open up was very, very impressive to me. That was one of the best quarterbacks in football.
And I hate to beat a dead horse, but that was in Seattle. And Seattle plays differently away from their home crowd. The home crowd feeds into that defense and makes them go to that next level. I really believe that.
I know you guys really believe it, and I thought about it.
Well,
but if I ask a Seahawk fan, they're gonna, what they're gonna tell you? Man, that Super Bowl wasn't in Seattle.
I just was thinking the same thing. They played pretty good.
I don't think that that's the only factor.
But that was the big stage.
But I think that every team gets a home field advantage because it's easier to call your audibles.
And let me go tell you guys right now. And SD Fan 83 brought this up, and we're talking about it right now. He says, the whole having more Charger fans. He firmly believes it's a fan issue and not a team issue. The number of away fans at the game.
Yeah.
What do you think you're going to see at this game, at the Seattle game? I'm predicting about 50%.
No, yeah,
Seattle
it's going to
fans.
be
So
I don't know if it's going to be 50%, but it's going to be a high. First of all, everybody's a Seattle fan because Seattle is the team going right now.
Exactly.
So you have a lot of people that just go with the
winner,
with the hot team, and Seattle is the hot team right now.
And I will tell you that, and those fans will be out there because I remember the day after the preseason game, I was driving down a street of mine. I saw two Seattle, little flags on the cars, and I saw some jerks standing outside. Standing outside wearing a Seattle jersey, just sitting there by the main road. So
I'll tell you what they should have done was they should have if you bought a ticket to Seattle game, you should have had to buy season tickets.
You're right. No, but I've been listening to talk radio just in the last 2 days, and Seattle fans are just going on there and they're just absolutely disgracing the Chargers. And I would love nothing more than for us to go in there on our opening night and take care of business against Seattle. Not only to shut them up, but to build confidence because, like Justin and I have talked about on numerous occasions, after Seattle, we have a 5-game stretch that is very, very winnable. And if we can somehow pull the Seattle matchup out, and then we have those next 5 games against very beatable opponents.
I'm not saying we're going to win all those. I'm just saying saying they are winnable games.
They're very winnable games, and we know that. And these are the teams that you have to beat.
Every game on the schedule is winnable. We have a good enough team to beat every single team on our schedule. We're not going to. Obviously, we lost our first game. We're not going to go 15-1 because that's just not the way the NFL works. But the Chargers have a good enough team to beat every team, so every game is a winnable game. I
agree with you.
This whole 5-game streak of winnable games, every game is winnable and every game is losable. Right. We saw that. We were a better team than Arizona. I think we have a better team than Arizona. I think that we should have won that game, but we didn't. You move on, and people who are writing us off from the Seattle game, I think I just think that they're not. Chargers shouldn't be written off.
And this is the same team that went into Denver last year, and no one said we were going to win, and we went into Denver and whipped their ass.
Oh yeah, and I mean, let Seattle fans talk. I mean, what do they know? They don't. They just
know about the Super
they just know
Bowl.
about their team.
Right.
But I'm saying they're not sitting there studying the offense. The Chargers, they're not sitting there watching game film. That's just fans talk, and I don't expect them to come in there and go, oh, you know what, it's going to be a close game. No, I expect them to be saying we're going to whip them, and we should all be saying as Charger fans we're going to shock them. We're going to beat this team because they are the favorite, and there's no going around that. They should be the favorite. They're the defending champions, and you want to be the man, you got to beat the man.
Put up or
right.
Shut up.
Woo!
So I mean, it's one of those things. Guys.
So I mean, literally, we know what the defense is going to bring, but I think the biggest thing for our defense, we have to contain Russell Wilson. We have to. Because if he can run free, it's going to make it very, very difficult to stop their offense. Because, what is he going to do? Is he going to run? Is he going to pass? I mean, if he's running free, he's going to just completely tear up our defense.
Yeah, no, I think that. I mean, there's so many keys. That's probably the main one that you touched upon, Josh. I mean, stopping Marshawn Lynch, covering Percy Harvin. And then let's not forget about the other receivers, the tight end. Zach Miller.
Yeah,
I mean, he can still catch a ball. So, I mean, there's
Turbin,
a lot.
Lynch,
and Percy Harvin. I mean, they have a lot of weapons.
Yeah, so, I mean, but you have to focus. It starts with Russell Wilson. You have to pressure him. You have to get to him. You can't let him escape the pocket like we did against Carson Palmer. I mean, we made him look like, Russell Wilson.
Right. Well, imagine if that was Russell Wilson scampering out of the pocket. But the main thing is when we get to the quarterback, we have to put him in the dirt. Yeah. Bottom line.
Yeah, Freeney whiffed on 3. It's unacceptable. He has to get him down, or anybody that gets back there has to get. And we know that. And getting back, that was the frustrating part. We got such good pressure and guys whiffing on plays, and you're going, man, that was so close. And then Carson Palmer's scrambling out, making a play, and you're like, damn it, we were so close. I mean, those are the frustrating parts about it, and that happens in football, though. That happens weekly around the NFL. You see missed sacks, missed tackles all the time. Right. So it's about opportunities and making your opportunities.
Yeah, and I really hope to see the offense, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of the screen game because I think when a team is aggressive like the Cardinals were, that's the main, that's the way you get them. You set some screens up and make them back off, which we didn't do. Right. And I agree, and I agree with that one part. That's the one part about Frank Wright calling that game that I wish we had seen more of with Woodhead,
right?
Exactly.
Or even Donald Brown, because that's the main recipe to solve that.
And here's another thing that probably worked against us in in Arizona is the fact that our running game was unsuccessful. So they stacked the box.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if we can't run, then they stack the box. They put tons of pressure on the offensive line and Phillip Rivers. And, it obviously got to him.
Right.
And no one wants to admit it, but Phillip Rivers didn't look like himself in Arizona. He looked scared at times. Yeah. He wasn't putting the ball on the money. Scared, I think in that final quarter when he had a time to move the ball down the field, there was a lot of times that he let go of the ball sooner than he had to. And because of that, it wasn't on the money.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I don't agree with that. But he looked jittery at times, and meaning just go a little happy feet at particular times. Not scared. He still delivered the ball with great
I think he let go of the ball a little bit early because he is anticipating them getting in there because they were. I think scared is just the wrong term to use. I understand what you're saying because he did let go of the ball. There was a couple plays where we saw where he threw the ball before the pressure got there. Yep. So I understand what you saw, and we saw it too. I just don't like the term scared. I don't think that he was scared.
So can we expect this week? I mean, we know they're going to get blitz, a lot more two tight end sets, bigger boys coming out, Wilson,
Hey,
Phillips.
Brian Bolts is in the chat room.
What's up, Brian?
What's up, buddy? Hey,
we're frustrated too, my friend.
So do you guys expect a little two tight end sets this week and try to go off of that base formation? I mean, we're not going to dive in X's and O's, but
right.
I think when they're the type of team like Arizona, you really got to have those backs back there. You don't want Philip to get his head knocked off. So.
I like what Jake said, actually, was the fact that they didn't bring John Phillips in very much to block. Now, I think that if we're gonna bring in those two tight end sets and we're gonna bring Danny Woodhead in, Danny Woodhead did a great job of picking up the blitz. But let's make them pay. Let's send them out and let's take our chances with making them pay. If they're gonna blitz too many guys, then somebody's gonna be open. Right. I have faith that Phillip will be able to find that guy. But if you're holding all these guys in, playing a little bit more conservative, trying to be conservative against the sack, you really, really limit your options. And when you play against a team that has good cornerbacks, like we did last week and like we will this week, they can afford to blitz because they trust their cornerbacks.
With the two tight end set, there's two things that work for us. Obviously, we have the gentleman out there that can get the job done receiving-wise, but it makes our line that much bigger for the running game or when they decide that they're going to blitz. If Rivers picks up on it, he can audible, and you can keep those guys there to give you more blocking, if you wanted to. Or you can have one set up as they're going to block and then sneak out, into the flat, and then he's wide open one-on-one. You know what I mean? It gives us more options with that two tight end set.
And I am not a coach a football coach by any.
We're none of us.
Whatever. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm not a football coach, but
we know.
But I will say what I'm thinking is putting two running backs in. And leaving one to block. Because what's going to happen is the pressure's there to force the quarterback to throw it quickly. So if you do that, the cornerbacks don't have to cover as long, and it gives them a chance to pick off a pass.
Right.
So I'm saying leaving two running backs where they don't know which one's going to leak out, that might be,
that might be another solution.
That's, Mikey's tip for Frank.
So who –
I hope you're listening, Frank.
who and you guys can answer in the chat room too, who are you guys – looking forward to seeing this week? I mean, obviously, there was a bunch of guys that we rattled off against the Arizona game. Whether it's those same people or
why don't we
somebody
say
else.
Who's going to be the standout player for the Chargers?
Who do you think
we all agreed that last week
Seattle?
was it Tauchu?
Tauchu.
Is that who?
Verrett.
You can make the argument for Verrett, but I think that if you had to choose one player that was the standout, it'd have to be a Tauchu. I mean,
and there's a big reason why he's up for I think a defensive player of the week award.
Rookie of the week.
Right.
So this week, who do you guys think is going to be the big standout for the Chargers? Who do you got, Mikey?
You know what? I think it's going to be Gates.
Okay.
I think against that defense, he's the one player that physically can be a mismatch.
Right.
Because one thing with those cornerbacks and those players is the linebackers is they're not that tall. Sherman's physical, but he's not extremely tall. I think he's 5'11".
Right.
Gates is what, 6'4"?
Well, no, Sherman's 6'2".
6'2"? Is he?
Yeah, he's huge.
He's a big guy.
Wait, I'm sorry. I think something else. Sorry.
Oh, it's all right.
You're right, yeah.
I'm going to go with his counterpart. I'm going to go Ladarius Green. I think the tight ends are going to have a big day for Phillip. I think that's going to be a safety net all day long with that blitz coming at him. And look, and I'll throw another guy out there just for shits and gigs, but Danny Woodhead, I think, has a good game because of the pressures, and I think you see a little bit more.
Not fair. You can't pick two.
Okay, well, Ladarius is my first guy.
I think I'm totally agreeing with Big Brian in our chat room. I think Jerry Atachu does it again. I think I'm going to go back to the wishing well, and I think he's going to.
Yeah,
I think he's going to continue to show us why we drafted him, where we drafted him this last year.
Problem is you got a mobile quarterback you're playing. Good luck getting your hands on him.
Yeah, I would much rather him chasing him around than
it's hard to do.
Dwight Freeney.
It's hard. He doesn't sit back there in the pocket.
I think I'm going to take Justin's second guy, and that's Danny Woodhead. I think Woodhead is going to have a big game. I think the Chargers, watching tape right now are realizing that they didn't use him correctly, and I think that they're going to really make him a big part of the passing game.
SD Fan 83, he's looking at or focusing on our linebacker crew as a group because Seattle has a strong running game, and they need to step up huge to try and make them one-dimensional.
That's how they get their offense rolling. They feed off the run and then play action pass. That's how they like to roll, man. So
totally
I agree with him.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. You know who I was thinking?
Who were you thinking?
Earl Thomas.
Earl Thomas.
Okay.
I think because they're going to put Earl Thomas, possibly Cam Chancellor, but on Gates, and I think Earl Thomas being a shorter guy, that's where Gates can excel.
I like it. I mean, like you said, both tight ends I think have a
Do we want to do score predictions?
Let's do some predictions. Obviously, we got the world champs at home. It's our home opener. It's a whiteout. Mikey, I'm going to start with you, buddy.
Brian, real quick in the chat room is picking Dwight Freeney. He mentioned
Freeney
Jerry, but he's picking Dwight Freeney to be his player.
He says Freeney will step it up. I think he got enough reps.
Spinneroonie.
Hashtag Spinneroonie.
Spinneroonie.
Okay, sorry about that. Who's making
Mikey,
the picks?
prediction?
Man, I have to be honest, and I think with this one, I mean, I see us. I don't see us being able to stop Russell Wilson, but I think it's a lot closer than everybody thinks, and I think it's gonna be 28-24. I think it might be one play here or there, and it could be the opposite. We could win 28-24.
Way to cover them bases.
Thank you.
Yeah. Who you? So you're picking Seattle?
I am taking Seattle 28-24.
Okay.
I'm taking Seattle as well, and I'm going 30-27 Hawks. At the Q, hit a field goal late. It's a close game, and it's going to drive us nuts one more week until we can get our first win in Buffalo.
Go ahead. You want me to go?
Yep.
Well, first of all, I say you guys can suck it.
Yes!
Oh, hey, it's fine. I'm just being realistic. That's my heart of hearts.
I'm going San Diego 23, Seattle 17.
You're on crack.
Maybe.
I want some of what you're having. Sprinkle that over your Wheaties, huh?
I'm on that same bandwagon, Jason. I have Chargers winning 23-21.
At least yours a little closer.
I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a close game throughout. I think the defense is going to dictate, and I think the Bolts are going to pull out this win and surprise everybody.
I hope you're right. My score's not out of hand. It's 3 points. I hope it's the other way 3 points. I really do.
Mike, Justin, new Seattle fans apparently.
I'm sure Darren
got my Cam Chancellor jersey in the car.
So, guys, as always, we want to thank you for joining in on the show. Don't forget, you can go to SanDiegoSportsJunkies.com, hit up the blog. Feel free to let your voice be heard. Post articles. We have a great editor in Mike Maciejewski. He'll go in there and he'll make you look like a superstar. So, guys, thank you as always for joining the show. You were being realistic last season in Kansas City too.
He's all over me. I have every team's jersey, Darren.
Guys, this is San Diego Sports Junkies, the show for fans.
By the fans.
We are out. Thank you for listening to the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans, by the fans. Brought to you by Cali Comfort, home of the Low and Slow Barbecue, and SK Digital Imaging, with Josh Taylor, Justin Smead, Jason Eidsmo, and Mike Maciejewski. Subscribe to us on iHeartRadio, on Spreaker, and on iTunes. Visit SanDiegoSportsJunkies.com for all your Chargers, Padres, and Aztecs news.